Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see you or not see you. I'm having a little bit of vision problems these days, but hopefully here in a month or so that will get taken care of. Please join me in the call to worship. Let us be ready.
Our God comes in
unexpected times and in unexpected ways. Let us dress for action. This work for us requires our hands and feet, as well as our hearts and minds. Let us dress with love and compassion. God asks us to keep our lamps lit and to be the light of the world. Let us be ready. And turn to hymn number 414, God Who Stretched.
God who stretched the spangled heavens, infinite in time and space, flung the suns in burning radiance through the silent fields of space. May your children in your likeness share inventive powers with you. Great Creator, still creating, show us what we yet may do. We have ventured worlds and dreamed of since the childhood of our race. Know the ecstasy of winging through untraveled realms of space. From the secrets of the phantom, yielding unimagined power, facing us with life's destruction for our most triumphant hour. As we our horizon beckons, may it challenge us anew. Children of creative purpose, serving others, honoring you. May our dreams prove rich with promise, such endeavor will begun. Great Creator, give us guidance, still our goals and yours are one.
Now we come to a time of sharing or announcements, joys and concerns. I'm going to start because I want to introduce my niece. I'm going to read what's in the bulletin, but for those of you that don't have a bulletin in front of you, that way you can get her little history. Kara is going to be giving our message this morning of her experience in BVS. She grew up in the Church of the Brethren, often hearing stories about McPherson College and BVS from her mother, which was my sister. Kara moved from her home in California in 2015 to attend McPherson College, where she majored in English and minored in communication and religion philosophy. After graduating in 2019, she joined BVS and served at Gould Farm in Monterey, Massachusetts for 2 years. In her free time, Kara loves swimming and doing yoga, as well as singing in the church choir at McPherson Church of the Brethren. She is currently working at the McPherson Public Library in the Youth Services Department. So welcome, Kara. Glad to have you, and other joys and concerns. Do we need to?
There it is.
All right. Wrong color of the day. That's what it was, green. Okay, so I'm here with multiple announcements. First off, hello. It's good to see you all again. It's been a hot minute since I've been here. Just to report back, all the conferences went really, really well. I went to every single national/district conference that could have happened. don't recommend going to 4 conferences in 30 days. It was a lot, but it was good. A lot. It was a lot of good. So holler at me if you want any updates. I know there's lots of people in here that went to lots of different conferences within the church and experienced lots of different things from different perspectives. So be sure to stay up to date on what's happening within the denomination. Now, locally, let me tell you, we got this cool shindig going on this coming Tuesday. Who knows it? Say it out loud, Michael. Neighborhood night out. Woo! Neighborhood night out. Yes. Yeah. 2 claps for Michael. All right. So in case you didn't see the reminder that opened right in front of your bulletin, this is for you. You get to take that home. That's your reminder. And then you also have 2 more reminders in your bulletin additional. One goes up at a bulletin board at work because our work people are good friends. And then next, one goes to a neighbor. So we all pass this out and we share this fun information. So just a reminder, it's this Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. We're going to have Naknashiga and Dolores and the Pick and Fretter here with some awesome music. We're going to have lots of goodies, which if you brought cookies, utabomb.com, because we got cookies. So thank you for that. Do we want to put a cap on the cookies? Or if you're still planning to bring cookies, we'll take the cookies. We're not going to say no, but we got quite a few. So we're doing good on cookies. I think we're going to have some popcorn, water for sure, because it's going to be hot. Be sure to bring your own lawn chair, bring a friend, and bring a smile because we're going to have a lot of fun. Kona Ice Truck will be here, so bring a couple dollars if you want a snow cone, because again, it's going to be hot. Snow cones will be delicious, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to attend that. And if you have any donations, we are going to do a get to know you activity, and everybody internally groans, but it'll be fun. So there will be prizes. So if you have any donations to give to that, come see me ASAP at the end of the day. And I think I'm done. I'm probably timed out on any more announcements I could possibly give. So who's next? Flowers? I did bring the flowers. Yes. There's flowers up on the altar that I brought for my cousin because she hosted me last weekend at district conference and she's speaking today. So yes.
I wanted to highlight the announcement in the bulletin. Jim has a milestone birthday coming up on September the 1st, and we're not doing the holiday weekend for several reasons. August the 28th, here at the church in the Fellowship Hall, 3:30 to 5:30. And I hope to have a good crowd to celebrate Jim and wish him many more birthdays.
I'll pick green. Yay. People have talked about the terrible flooding in Kentucky. And of course, CoB response people are there. And so in your bulletin, in this blue page, it talks about the update that we got from the church office about the flooding and disaster response and what they're doing there. And so this is quite a bit of information, so please read it. Also, after I did the blast on Friday, I got the notice from Donna Bozard about Henry not doing well. I haven't heard any more, but please keep Donna and Henry and all of their family, Donna's brother, and there's just, it really goes on and on for poor Donna. So please keep them in your prayers. And as we hear about Henry's progress, we'll let the church know.
I'd just like to ask for prayers for my first cousin, Donna Shute. She's suffered a stroke. And it sounds like it was pretty serious. And she's only a couple of years older than me. So she's up in South Dakota. I appreciate prayers for her.
I just want to give a little update on my brother Richard. A week ago, last Thursday, he bought the house right next door to us. So it makes it a lot easier for Jenny and I to aid in his care. However, he is in the hospital right now with an infectious disease. He's had a sore on his heel for 4 months and trying to get that healed up. Well, he had a doctor look at it and they took off part of the bone because they thought the bone had some infection in it. So he's going to spend a week in the hospital and probably 4 or 5 weeks in rehab. So, but he's doing well, and he was really happy with his new purchase of the house next door to us. And it's so there's some good news as well as bad news in his life right now. So just wanted to update that.
Kathy Dunleavy got a note from Donna, and Henry did pass away. It says that this was Friday. Henry passed away this Friday morning. It says that Matt and his children were there with him. They were able to hold his hand while he took his last breath. Knowing that I was near was everything. I'm home now and doing just fine, Donna says. Thank you for your support and prayers. She's been missing us. So keep them in your prayers.
I almost feel bad following that. I have a joy to share. So maybe that's a good thing. So I will be starting a new position on August 15th. I applied for a position at Dunbar, which is the Migrant and Refugee Hub for USD 259, and I'm going to be teaching adult literacy, which means I'm teaching English. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm also kind of nervous because it's a complete change, but it's going to be a good change, I think. So prayers that I can get through that anxiety, but also it's a pretty big joy. So yeah.
Got another joy or concern.
One more real quick announcement.
sure.
On September 11th, we are hoping to start up Youth Sunday School again. So just more to come on that. September 11th.
Anyone else? Let's join in prayer. Our dear Lord, you've heard our joys, our concerns, those in need. We lift all these to you. Be with our activities. Let us have good relations with our neighbors, so we have a good time on Tuesday. Be especially with the Bozarth family as they face another death. You've heard our prayers. Amen. Now we'll have special music.
When troubles surround us, when evils come, the body he said us. He doesn't forget us. He sends down his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. When Noah had drifted on the flood many days, he searched for land in the various ways. Promise he had some, but wasn't forgotten. He sent him his love on wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on wings of a dove. When Jesus went down to the waters that day, he was baptized in the usual way. When it was done, God blessed his son. He sent him his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on wings of a dove.
Anyone that would like to be a child this morning, please come forward for Jenny's children's story.
Check, check.
Hello, here we go. Thank you. Good morning. What a big group. I'm so excited. So I want to, speaking of excitement, I wanted to ask you if any of you have been to the Nifty Nut House. Yeah. And how do you feel inside when you go to the Nifty Nut House? Joyful, a little overwhelmed.
Hungry.
The Nifty Nut House. Yeah, it's such a great place. Well, I want to show you a book that for me is like the Nifty Nut House. Ta-da! 2022 BBS booklet. Now, I'm telling you, I'm not in a position in my life right now where I am going to go to BBS right now, but I think about going after I'm done with what I'm doing now. And when I was little, I used to have a copy of this and I knew I wanted to do it after college. So I would read it and I would see all these different places. So first of all, BVS stands for Brethren Volunteer Service. Now here's a little quiz. Which was invented first, BVS or Peace Corps? BVS. BVS helped to create Peace Corps. They looked at us and kind of got a model for how to do things. So inside this book are all of these different descriptions of places where you can go all around, not just the United States, but the globe, all different countries. If you go to a different country, you can work 2 years. And if you're in the United States, you can work for a year, and you can work for as many 1-year jobs as you want. So I wanted to show you 3 pictures from my BBS scrapbook. And this first one here is a big group of people. And this is the first thing you do if you decide to go to BVS. You go to something called orientation, and that's where they teach you all about how to be a volunteer. But what they didn't tell you is that they really are teaching you how to live a really cool life, even after BVS. Like, we learned how to go to a grocery store and shop with very little money and make really great food, healthy food. We learned how to use peace and reconciliation to solve conflicts. We learned how to just live really simply. And that's a great way to live no matter what. So those are my people. Now, the next picture I want to show you is a picture from my first place that I went to live. And it was in Atlanta, and it was this restaurant called 458. And I'm the kitchen manager, and make lunch free for anybody who would come by. And these were people not working very well. So this was the restaurant where I worked. And we had a bunch of volunteers who would come in, and I would just make sure that there was food ready, and then the chefs would make the food, and all of our guests would come, and they did not get a bill at the end of the meal. It was a free meal. And so this was one of our regular guests. This is Tay. And Ava, how do you think Tay is feeling there? Oh, first of all, let me show you. Here's Tay here. Here's Tay here. How is he feeling? Yes, in this one, he is super happy, upbeat. And in this one, he's a little bit more tired because his family's homeless and he would have to walk around Atlanta, very hot and very long walks. And sometimes by the time he got to us, he was very tired. So he would just sit and chill. And our job was to help our guests find a way to live without alcohol and drugs. And then we would help them get jobs and a place to live. So that was what we worked on. I did that for 1 year. And then I'm going to show you another picture. The second year, I went up to live near Chicago in Elgin, where the national offices are. And I worked to help all of the Church of the Brethren colleges work together to recruit Church of the Brethren students. And I worked to organize young adult conferences. So I lived in this big house all together. And this is another thing you learn in BBS. If you live in a house with a lot of people, you learn how to live with other people besides your family. So this is the big house in Elgin. These are one of our snows. This is where I learned that you could sing in public. So that's what I started doing. I never knew you could do that. Never thought I could do that. And this is a big picture of all the people that lived in our house in the Elgin, in the big volunteer house back here. So these are some of my closest friends. And the other thing I was thinking as I was looking through this book, it's not just like what we did. Sorry. But the people that you meet, if you choose to do volunteer service, you put yourself in a position where you meet the most incredible people. and you get to do the most incredible things, and you start to learn things about life that you probably didn't know before. So I am going to be hanging on to my volunteer booklet wherever that went. Yeah, that's my nifty nut house. But if you ever want to borrow it, let me know. And I hope all of you consider this, because even when we are through with our planned careers, you can go for 3-month stints and 6-month stints. Yes, Michael. Yeah. Yes. So he's wondering if I learned new things when I went, and was I nervous when I went? I was mostly I was excited because I knew I really wanted to do this and I would learn new things. And I was excited to learn new things. I was nervous because I didn't know exactly where I would go. But I had grown up in a little tiny town where I didn't know social work existed. And so that became my career because I learned about it in BVS. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot of new skills, and it changed the course of my life in a very good way. Okay, let's say prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for opportunities for us to embrace, to learn more about ourselves, to challenge ourselves, to serve others, and to do your work in this world. Amen.
Thank you to our church family for continuing to support the ministry of the congregation, both financially and physically, through our time and talents. We give thanks for the offerings that are being made even as we speak. You may send your donations to the church office, and you can give through the links online. This information is provided in the description on YouTube and the chat box on Zoom. God, you come to us at unexpected times and in unexpected places. It is often hard to remain faithful, to share our wealth, to rescue the oppressed. Our pursuits are often self-serving, ignoring those in need of our care. Forgive us and cleanse us, O God. Move us to be people of justice. With our lamps lit, help us to walk by faith, to follow you, and to share your love. You may now bring your offerings. Let us pray together. Generous God, you offer us unfailing treasure in heaven. In love and gratitude for your gifts to us, we return these gifts and offerings to you. Use them and stretch us that we may do good, seek justice, and be your light in the world. Amen. Turn to hymn number 409.
What does the Lord require for an offering? What sacrifice desire or tribute bid you bring? Do justice, love, mercy, walk humbly with your God. People of earth, give ear. Should you not justice know? Will God your pleading hear? While crime and cruelty grow, do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Still down the ages ring the prophet's stern commands to merchant worker king. He bring God's right demands. Do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. How shall our life fulfill God's law so hard and high? Let Christ endure our will with grace to fortify. And justly in mercy will humbly walk with God.
Our scripture this morning is from Luke 12:32 through 38. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves.
Good morning. It's lovely to see you all. I'm going to time myself so I don't go too long. I could talk for a long time about BBS. So I know the scripture focuses on giving money, but we're going to focus on giving time today, because I think sometimes for a lot of us, our time is more valuable than our money. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak about BBS. I'm very passionate about it, and I had a wonderful experience. I do want to offer a little bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about mental illness, and I do have one mention of suicide. So if that is something that is not healthy for you to hear, you are welcome to step out or sit back and take a nap or
pull out your earplugs. I hope you don't bring earplugs to church, but do whatever is right for you. So my name is Kara, and I graduated from McPherson College in 2019 and decided to join BVS. I was an English major, and I just decided I was very tired of writing papers. I was just done with sitting behind my little dorm desk, and I decided I just want to be outside. I just want to go do something completely different for a little bit of time. And I have family and friends who have joined BVS and had wonderful experiences. And so I decided that that was for me. I was unit 322. And the reason that I chose the project that I did was because going into orientation, I knew I wanted to be outside. I knew I wanted to continue community living because I really loved being around other people. And I wanted to, as an only child, I wanted to learn more about living with other people. I knew I was passionate about supporting and learning from marginalized communities. And I knew I was passionate about mental health. And so when I read about Gould Farm, which is in Monterey, Massachusetts, I knew that was going to be perfect for me. I read about it in the booklet, in the Nifty Nut House booklet. And I said, okay, this is where I want to go. And so I broke the rules a little bit and reached out to them beforehand, not knowing that you're not supposed to do that. Now you get your placement. BVS just made a change that volunteers get their placement before orientation. So I was just ahead of the game a little bit. But I reached out and I talked to the volunteer coordinator at Gould Farm, and then went through my orientation and was really lucky that I was able to go to my first choice placement. So I do want to explain a little bit about how Gould Farm works, because it's a very unusual place. On the website, it says Gould Farm is a therapeutic farming community that serves adults with severe mental illness. And of course, when I read that, I thought, okay, well, what the heck is a therapeutic farming community? What does that mean? And therapy, what it means is Gould Farm is 750 acres in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. It's really, really beautiful setting. When you step on the campus, you feel like you have gone back in time. I mean, it's all red barns and animals and kind of rolling hills. It's really beautiful. CoB visited me. She saw it. And the community is a little over 100 people. And that includes about 40 guests, which is how we refer to the therapy recipients, the residents, there we go. And then also volunteers and staff families. So the staff and their families live on the campus there. So it's a relatively, small community. And there are 3 different branches of therapy that are kind of offered there all together. So when you come to Gould Farm as a guest, you have clinical therapy, which is talk therapy with a clinician once a week or around that. And then also meeting with a psychiatrist and working on different medications and things like that. So that's the clinical branch. There's residential therapy, which is living in a house with a lot of other people in close contact and getting along with your neighbors and doing your chores and, keeping up with your personal hygiene and making sure you go to meals on time and get to work on time and all those things that you have to learn as an adult. So that is another part of it, the residential part. And then the part that Gould Farm is really well known for is the work program. And that was where I worked. And the work program is made up of 8, several different teams, so that guests can choose when they come, and staff and volunteers as well, depending on their interests, what sort of team they would like to work on. We have a really impressive bakery. There's a kitchen team that cooks for the whole community. There is a farm team that works with the animals and makes sure the animals are all fed and does the milking. There is a garden team that plants and harvests all the produce. And then there's a forestry and grounds team that kind of does everything else. We have a lot of trails on the campus, so make sure the trails are all in order, does housekeeping, felling trees, chopping wood, shoveling snow, kind of all those different things. So the teams that I worked on were the garden and the forestry and grounds. So I spent a lot of time outside, and that part was just fulfilled. I was very happy to be outside. So my intention for this time that you've given me is to share 5 simple lessons that I have learned through my experience at Gould Farm during my 2 years of service. And it is not required to do 2 years domestically, as Jenny said. It's required to serve for 2 years if you go international, but because of the pandemic, I decided to stay a second year, and also because I really loved my placement and I felt like there was more for me to learn. So my first lesson is that service requires self-care and healthy boundaries first. And I learned this from a friend who lived across the hall from me. He led a game night, a philosophy club, a stretching group, also drove church trips, participated in multiple book clubs. And then in his free time, he went out and ran all the trails on the campus. And I was very intimidated by everything that he was involved in. And one of the things about living in the setting that you're also working in is I really had to figure out what my boundaries were going to be so that I didn't completely spread myself out too thin. And also I was with all the same people. You know, you're with the same people and you eat and you live together and you work together. So I learned from him that I really need to examine why I'm committing to something before I commit. I learned that shame and comparison and competition are not reasons for service. And it's my responsibility to know my limits and respect them so that I'm working from a place of passion and desire to invest in others rather than obligation or self-interest. Boundaries were the most difficult part of my job at Gould Farm because of living with and working alongside people who had severe mental health issues. And that mostly involved, we didn't talk at all really about diagnosis. That was one of the really neat things about the farm. You walk into a room and you don't know who's staff and who's a volunteer and who's a guest. Everybody is just very much on an equal platform. But we had guests who had some sort of psychosis usually, and then also severe mood disorders. So like schizophrenia, and then also depression and anxiety, and sometimes a mix, sometimes schizoaffective disorder. So really, really severe things that they were dealing with. And living and working alongside people who had those struggles was so inspiring, but also I had to do a lot of inner reflection to decide where my lines were going to be in community. Some helpful practices that I found for myself were journaling and practicing gratitude. I spent a lot of time practicing gratitude, stretching and yoga and swimming and hiking. And one of the really basic ideas at the farm is that spending time outdoors is grounding and healing. And so I also really found that to be true. My second lesson is service requires research, understanding, and conversation to determine the best way to respectfully serve someone. In working at the farm, in my job, we had a slew of different kinds of trainings, lots of different kinds of trainings. How to help a mentally ill person in distress, offering and accepting helpful feedback in the workplace. We were trained on anti-racism and anti-discrimination in gender and sexuality, common language. We talked a lot about common language in the mental health field. But even with all of those trainings and all of those skills, the staff and the volunteers had to be in constant conversation with the guests to determine their individual needs. And everybody needed something different, even despite diagnoses. You could have two people dealing with depression or two people dealing with psychosis, and they need something, completely different. Each person needs something completely different. So one of the amazing things was that even though I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I got to work alongside small groups of guests and talk to them and be in conversation about what are you trying to get here in this community and what can I do to help you? So that was really valuable experience. The third lesson is that service is more about empowerment than it is charity. The main goal of the farm was to give back a person's sense of purpose, helping them realize they are essential to the community. So on the teams that I worked on, you can imagine that planting a seed in the ground and then watering it every day and watching it grow. And then when it becomes a plant, learning how to harvest it, taking it to the kitchen and then seeing it on your plate and on your friends' plates for dinner really is a very concrete way of finding your purpose. And that could be said for, each of the teams. We were a working farm and everybody had a specific role. And if they did not complete their tasks for the day, you could see what does the dinner plate look like if it doesn't have that fresh produce. So finding a sense of purpose through daily work was a big part of the farm. I learned to serve in a way that the pride and dignity of the person served remains intact, because that really is essential. My fourth lesson is that service is most effective through relationship. The community at Gould Farm functions on the belief that relationship is healing. That's part of the reason that when you walk into a room, you can't tell who is who, because everybody's talking and everybody is engaging with each other. And I really came away from it with an understanding that no one can ever go through the recovery process on their own without support, because we all needed each other to live in community. And that was even more true for people who were recovering from mental illness. They really needed their friends, and they really needed to be closely, in contact with people who were providing them support. I have an example, a woman that I'm going to call Carla, who came to the farm the same time I did and left around the same time I did. And we had a really special relationship. She was an exceptional musician, a really gifted event planner, and just very creative, probably the most creative person I've met artistically. And she struggled with depression and told me her story of attempted suicide before she came to the farm. And Carla was not the easiest person to work with. I really practiced patience working with her. And I think as also a creative person, we butted heads a lot. And I was constantly reminding myself, I'm here to support people. I'm not necessarily here to get things done, because we just had a hard time getting things done. But we had wonderful conversations. And towards the end of our stay, this guest, Carla, invited me to sing with her at one of the open mics, because we both really love music and really love singing. And as I was sitting with her and trying to decide what we were going to sing, she invited me to sing this original song with her. And this song is one that she wrote in the hospital after her attempted suicide, about her mother's absence from her recovery. And it was the most beautiful experience to be singing that with her and to be able to stand alongside her in mourning that piece of her life and that person who had not been there for her when she needed them. So that's just one example. I mean, I have many stories like that of being able to stand with someone while they're hurting and help them in their recovery. And that only happens through relationship. Service is a rewarding experience. Being at Gould Farm was a rewarding experience for the guests and the staff, because we all had given of our deepest selves to these relationships. My last lesson is that service is life-changing and it always results in personal growth. This is because service requires communication with people who are different from us, and learning from others is how we best grow. My service helped me grow spiritually, from making friends who were Jewish, agnostic, atheist, and also just a different kind of Christian. It vastly changed my understanding of mental health and recovery, and I learned a lot about the resilience of the human spirit. I met people who were coming to the farm for the first time, and I also met people who were coming back. I got to see people leave with a successful recovery, and I got to see people leave with an unsuccessful recovery. I learned a lot about the challenges and rewards of community, and my service required deep self-reflection to define my own boundaries and values. And those skills, I mean, just as Jenny was saying, I've used them daily, hourly, since then. They're skills that you use for the rest of your life. I want to thank you for the cards and letters that you all sent me. I got more cards and letters than I ever have before in my life in those 2 years, especially the first year. My name must have been on a different list the second year, but it was still really wonderful to receive notes from you all. And I have really appreciated your live stream service. I watched a few times. My parents watch every week from California. And we really appreciate everything that you're doing here. So as I finish, I just want to encourage us all to evaluate how we are spending our time, with the knowledge that our time is where our hearts are going to be. We're going to want to spend time with people we love and doing work that we love and doing work that benefits others. So thank you for your time.
This is unplanned, but I'm just wondering whether anyone has any questions for Kara. Yes, please do step to the mic so that everyone here and on YouTube and Zoom can hear.
Thanks, Diane, for the
Sure.
opportunity, because I did actually have a question. Because you said that you'd walk into a room and people are all just talking,
Mhm.
right? And was there, and everybody's kind of equal in the room, but is there any kind of leadership, or is there anybody who's kind of facilitating a room so that discussion occurs? Because I could also see real easy throwing people together, and it's just like, I mean, somebody needs to have a spark maybe, or something. Was there that?
We had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of staff meetings. I mean, almost daily, talking about the dynamics of power in our community, because they were very under the surface. But the guests could feel them, because at the end of the day, there is a hierarchy. We have an executive director, we have team leaders, we have work leaders, we have volunteers, and then we have guests. So, yes, we all had to be very self-aware, and we're trying to go out of our way to make everybody feel included. But there were times when we got into really, really difficult community conversations about, you're dealing with people who are hyper aware of social cues sometimes. And yeah, I mean, like I said, defining the boundaries was the most difficult part. And we did have, some activities had leadership, some didn't. There was a lot of just coming together and sitting together. And, we did a lot of music together. We did a lot of art together. But as a staff person, you always had, you're on all the time. You always had this kind of like rolling script in the back of your mind of, okay, I'm aware of who all is here. I'm aware of each of their personalities. I'm aware of, as a young woman, how many people are here, how many men are here, how many women are here, how many young men are here, what time of day is it, what's appropriate and what's not. What conversations do I need to steer and what conversations are okay? That was that was just really, really difficult. It was lovely to come back to McPherson and also big culture shock to come back and realize I'm not responsible for the mental health of everybody else around me. That's wonderful. I can say whatever I want. I don't have that script going on the back of my head all the time. That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking.
I could see there would be a very fine line at times between staff and guests, that a staff person could actually say, oh, I really should be a guest, not staff. Because there's such a fine line in the mental health field.
Yeah, you definitely find, I found guests who I really related to very well. I think, oh yeah, those are some of the same issues I have. But the difference is you're either coming from a place of stability or you're coming from a place of instability. So you do kind of have to be aware of that. And there were staff members who left, many staff members who left while I was there because they couldn't deal with that, or they realized, it really puts an exclamation point on all of your own mental health struggles if you have them.
Right.
So yeah, that's very true.
I'm gonna scream.
Oh,
Turn the mic.
I
Okay.
I struggle with mental health. We all know this.
We need it for people on Zoom and YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you, Radina.
Did any of the guests ever come back as volunteers?
yes.
Or were they able to work in that capacity? Or did they have to stay mental as a guest?
Oh, no, I worked with a staff member who had been a guest. Yes, that definitely happened. And also what Diane was saying, the way that the farm was set up is that guests can, yes, absolutely come back as volunteers or come back as staff members. You can't do it the other way around. A staff member, if they realize that they need more support, cannot come back as a guest. They have to go somewhere else. So a guest absolutely can. Yeah. Yeah. One of the workers who headed up all the cheese production while I was there, really, really lovely guy, had been a guest, years and years ago, and he came back. And as you can imagine, that was amazing for the current guests to see like, oh, here's this person who recovery was real for, and this place was successful for, and I could do that. If anybody has other questions, feel free to grab me afterwards.
Oh, and she did leave some pictures back
Oh,
on the
yes.
library table if you want to look at some of her pictures from her farm.
I did bring pictures. I didn't put them up here because they probably would have been more distracting from what I was saying than than, helpful. But yes, I do have pictures in the library if you want to see me on the farm. Thank you.
Okay, now we will turn to our hymn number 418. Please stand if you're able.
Let us go with open eyes, ready to see the evidence of inequity in our own neighborhoods, workplaces, and schools. Let us go with open hands, willing to prioritize justice and peacemaking, even as we navigate our busy schedules. Let us go with open minds, actively searching for the good in people, even when communication becomes messy, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. Let us embody God's love for all. Go in peace.
Yeah, and you can come sing in our choir.